Welcome back. We're going to look at section 4.5 in this video, which is solving percent problems using proportions. The percent proportion P over 100 is equal to A over B. For this proportion, P over 100 equals A over B, the P is the number from the percents, and so we write it as the ratio P over 100 because we know the percent means out of 100, so we're writing our percent as a fraction. And then on the other side of our proportion, the B is the base. It is the number that we are finding the percent of, and A is the amount, the part of the base, or the amount that the percent is equal to. So since there are three letters, there are three types of percent problems. So for type 1, the amount is the unknown. So they are giving us the amount for the base and the percents, but the portion of the base or the A value is the unknown. An example of the wording could be, what is P% of B? For example, 65% of 500. So what is 65%? That is linking the what, the A value, with the 65. And so notice it is set up as our 65 over 100 for our percents. Of means it's out of 500 with the A value on top. For type 2, we need to find the base. So we are given the percent and the A value, or the amount. So P% of what number is A? For example, 57% of what number is 51.3. So again, that word is says that the 57% is the 51.3. So 57 is on the top, 51.3 is on the top. Of what number means of the base. So of our unknown B, where 100% we know is a whole percent. And then lastly, sometimes our percent is the piece that we need to find given the base and the amounts. So what percent of the B value is the A value? Example, what percent of 170 is 204? And so again, is reflects back to the percent. So 204 is the percent, so notice it's on top. And of the base, 170, so 170 is on the bottom with 100. Notice here that the top is larger than the bottom. We have an improper fraction, and so our percent should end up being more than 100% because we have more than what makes a whole. Sorry about that. So now let's take a look at an example. What is 65% of 500? So again, of the B value is links the A value. So as you can see, the A is the what, the B is 500, and the 65 we know is our percent. So our 65 over 100, and that needs to equal A over 500. Now you might notice that our percent proportion here, 65 over 100, can be simplified. You can reduce fractions and things like that if you want to, but it's not necessary. I never worry about whether or not fractions that are complete in proportions can be simplified or not. To me, it's just wasting time. because I can use my calculator to help me do the multiplication and the division. So I just go at it as it is. So we have 100 across from our A. So when we do our cross product, we'll have 100A equals whatever we get when we multiply 65 times 500. And you know how to solve the rest. So why don't you pause the video and finish that, and then check your answer when you're done. All right, did you get 325? If not, look through the work here and see where your mistake was. So now pause the video again and try this one on your own. See if you can set it up properly and then solve it. And when you're done, resume the video. So did you get 12? If you did, great job. If not, you're going to take a look at the work here and see where your mistake went. Because again, is links the A value with the percent, so the A value is our unknown. True or false time. Number 1, percent problems can be solved with a proportion if 2 of the 3 parts, P, B, and A, are known. That does sound right. It's true. We need to know 2 of the 3 parts. Any one of those can be the unknown. Number 2, in the proportion P over 100 equals 65 over 200, the base is 65. Well, the B base, B bottom, is not 65, it's 200. And so let's fix that. So it's true now, but it was false. Number 3, in the problem, what is 26% of 720? The missing number is the base. Is links our percent, so that's our what, so that is our amount, and it's the unknown. Of means out of, and so 720 is the base. So again, they chose the wrong word there. It should be the amount is missing. So again, that one was false until we fixed it. Because the base represents the whole, it is always larger than the amount. We mentioned that already, that's false. When the top number is larger than the bottom number, we have over 100%, which is possible. We use percents over 100% a lot. So let's fix that. I'm going to pause it while I retype what it should be, just so you're not waiting on me, but then you can pause it while you copy it. So I think that's a much better statement. When the percent is larger than 100, the amount will be larger than the base. So they gave us an untrue statement that was completely false. And a lot of times in math, that always is one where you have to look closely, because and many times there's exceptions to rules, but in this case, we could have several exceptions to the rule. Okay, now it's practice time. So we have a few questions for you to do to figure that out. Make sure you're paying attention to whether the p-value is missing, the a value is missing, or the b value is missing. And so pause the video and work those out. And then if you check your answers and something went wrong, go ahead and double check to see if you set up the proportion right. There you go. Hopefully you got all of those right. The only thing I'll just say is notice 250 over here doesn't have the percent, just because the percent was already put into the problem, so we don't need to put it in our answer. But 8 says what percent, so we did include the percent sign. So for 5, you found the A value. 6, you found the A value. 7, you also found the A value. And then 8 and 9, we're missing the P values. Let's take a look at some applications. In 2016, the Los Angeles Dodgers led the major leagues in home attendance, drawing an average of 45,720 fans to their home games. This figure represented 81.64% of the capacity of their stadium. So it's asking us to estimate how many fans the stadium can hold, round to the nearest 10 when it is filled to capacity. Now, this is not TH, it's in front of the decimal 10, and I will point out that because it's a story problem, rounding to the nearest 10th really wouldn't make sense because our number will represent the amount of fans or people, and usually when we are talking about people, we round to the nearest whole number. So anyway, let's take a look at how to set this one up. We can see that 81.64%, so let's go ahead and put that piece in over 100. And then we are given 45,720. So does that represent the 61 or 81.64%, or does that estimate the total? So how many fans the stadium can hold would be the total amount. So that's our unknown. So the total amount the stadium holds is our unknown B, and the 45,720 is our A value. Again, now you can do the rest. Go ahead and cross multiply and figure it out. For myself, when I have the 100 across from a number, I just go ahead and do that multiplication. 2, 4, 5, 7, 2, 0. Multiplying by 100 just adds 2 more zeros to my number when there's no decimal point to move. So I just did that quick multiplication instead of showing the work, and I did forget to put B, didn't I, over here. So then we'll divide both sides by 81.64. And it doesn't quite come out evenly because I'm guessing the percent was rounded. But when we do this, we get a small decimal at the end, but it's 56,000 and then or 0.195. And so rounding to nearest 10 means we would have 56,000. And again, this number represents something because it's in a story problem, and it represents the amount of fans the stadium can hold. You want to purchase a new home for $122,000. The bank will loan you 80% of the purchase price. How much will the bank loan you? So it mentions that's called your mortgage, and you have to pay interest on it. And so if you take out a 30-year loan, you're ending up paying about 3 times the original amount. So your $122,000 house, if you're making minimum payments over 30 years, will cost you about $366,000. Ouch. But we'll look at setting this problem up. We see 80%, and it's out of 100. The new home purchase price is $122,000. So that's not a portion of how much it's worth, it's how much it's worth in total right now. So that's going to be the B value. So a portion of that, A, the amount, is how much the bank will loan us. So let's cross multiply and solve for A. So did you get $97,600? If not, again, check your work and see where your mistake went in. But this tells us that if we want a $122,000 home, we have to have approximately $25,000 to be able to put a down payment for the bank to loan us the rest. So this asks us to list the four parts of the proportion equation and give a brief definition of each. So 4 parts, they're adding that denominator of 100 into it. So pause the video, see if you can remember all 4 off the top of your head. If not, go ahead and look back in your notes to help you. And then when you're done, you can look at my answer. So here you go. We have the percent, 100, amount, and base. We know percent is the number of parts out of 100. So 100 denotes our percent, or that out of 100. The amount is the part of the whole, or the piece of the whole, and so the number that the percent represents. And the base is the whole, or the total amount. That is considered to be the whole. And then lastly, can a mixed number be used in a proportion? What do you think? And then it says to justify your answer. Did you think that it would work? Well, of course, any number we can use to plug into a proportion. Proportions work for any type of number. Mixed numbers, we could easily turn a mixed number into an improper fraction or a decimal number. But again, when we're doing our cross product and stuff like that, we don't have to worry about how to change it, especially if we have a calculator that can handle mixed numbers and fractions for us. So an example would be maybe, let's say 76% equals, let's say 5 1/4 of what number? So there's a mixed number. So we would multiply 76 times b on one side and 100 times 5 1/4 on the other, as you know, and continue on our merry way. So that's the basics of lesson 4.5. If you have difficulties in your homework, again, don't hesitate to send me an email and ask for help. Go to the tutoring center, whatever you need. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.